dos, tres, cuatro.
What's up everyone, this is White Pointer bringing you a retrospective video where I look at an old game and see how it fares by today's standards. In this one, I'll be taking a look at what many consider to be one of the best adventure games ever made, Grim Fandango. First released in 1998 by LucasArts and directed by Tim Schafer, it's maintained a cult following for a long period and has recently seen a revival in the form of being remastered. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to be looking at the remastered version. How does it stack up in 2018? That's the question I want to answer, and what better time to do it than on the game's 20th birthday. Let's get right to it. The story is by far the most interesting part of Grim Fandango. The game is set in the Land of the Dead, a kind of purgatory of sorts where most residents are skeletons, and where the dead go en route to their final destination. You play as Manny Calavera, a travel agent whose job is to offer his clients the best passage to that final destination, depending on how good they were when they were living. After he has a series of dud clients, he begins wondering why his colleague Domino gets all of the good ones. So with his job under threat, he intercepts one of Domino's messages and heads out to claim the client for himself, a sweet woman named Meche. By doing so, he unwittingly kicks off an epic journey that involves organised crime, underground resistance movements, poetry and gambling. I'm not going to reveal too much more of the plot, but it's fascinating, engrossing, and mostly well paced throughout the adventure. The setting itself is also unique, and the game has a very distinct film noir feel to it, mixed with Mexican folklore. Amusingly, many characters smoke, even though they are skeletons with no lungs. Despite the sometimes grim narrative, Grim Fandango doesn't take itself too seriously at times either, and isn't afraid to throw in the odd joke that are made all the more quirkier with the game's unusual setting.
Now, all we have to do is wait for the room to fill up, and we'll just float on out of here. Well, this is disappointing.
Not to me. We don't float, remember?
Grim Fandango is one of those old-school point-and-click adventure games, in a similar vein to other LucasArts adventure games, such as the Monkey Island series and Day of the Tentacle, although this was the first game to be presented in 3D, using polygonal models for the characters set against pre-rendered 3D backgrounds. Like those other games, the player must search for clues, pick up items to add to their inventory, use those items in a particular way, and speak to NPCs to solve numerous puzzles. While the puzzles in Grim Fandango are mostly well thought out, and some are actually really clever, they still often suffer from the same shortcomings as other adventure games of its time as well. Solutions to puzzles are often extremely obtuse, with vital clues not being particularly obvious a lot of the time and looking like an unassuming part of the environment. The camera angles sometimes aren't very helpful in allowing you to spot clues either. It's very easy to miss these clues just because you didn't move your cursor onto the exact right spot, or didn't interact with the environment in the exact way the game wanted you to. Oftentimes, an NPC will give you an important piece of information, but then never repeat it again no matter how many times you speak to them. So, bad luck if you forgot what they said, or you missed it buried in the other dialogue. There will no doubt be a number of occasions where you'll find yourself frustratingly running around in circles for ages, around the game's often pretty large environments, looking for that one clue you missed. Even then, you may not have actually missed a clue. The game just makes you believe you did, because a puzzle solution is so nonsensical it may not be obvious why it worked even once you solve it. This is especially true in the game's second act, although it happens less frequently in the third and fourth acts. Some kind of built-in hint system, such as the one present in the Broken Sword remasters, would have been a welcome addition in the remaster of Grim Fandango. The game may devolve into trial and error more often than you'd like, as you move the cursor around every part of the environment, hoping it changes to an interaction icon, or showing every NPC you come across every item in your inventory, hoping they react to it in some way. I was stuck for a significant amount of time on one occasion because I hadn't shown a specific inventory item, which was used in another area of the game, to a specific NPC. The game at no point even suggested that that NPC would be even remotely interested in that item, and it was only after I'd done so that it became clear. Grim Fandango does spare you from the added complexity of needing to combine inventory items together in some illogical way that those earlier game examples were often guilty of. So there's that at least. The controls in the remaster are drastically improved over the tank controls of the original game, which didn't even include a mouse cursor and relied on Manny's head tracking to find clues. But it can still sometimes be frustrating trying to move into the exact position you want or click on the exact thing you want to click on. Since a lot of the game's puzzles require travelling pretty large distances on foot, this can sometimes be annoying, but not really a deal breaker. The game also looks very nice for the most part. The lighting improvements look great, and the character models, while being in higher resolution, actually don't look too out of place against the backgrounds, which haven't changed at all. If for some reason you want to change back to the original tank controls or grainy original visuals in this remaster, the option is there to do so. One point that bears mentioning is that I ran into a game-breaking bug in the second half of the game's first act, which you can see here. My character completely disappeared and the camera was stuck in an overhead position. The game was essentially soft-locked and nothing I could do would fix it, and a quick Google told me that this unfortunately was a common problem. I needed to reload an earlier save, which I luckily made not too far away, and crossed my fingers it wouldn't happen again. It's disappointing they didn't fix bugs like these during the remastering process, or add an autosave feature just in case something like this happens, for that matter. The voice acting in Grim Fandango is right on the mark and does a fantastic job of bringing the characters and the strange world to life, and the dialogue itself is some expertly written material. I don't think I can really praise this element of the game enough.
Buenos dias.
Manny, why aren't you at the poisoning?
What poisoning?
The Code 3 gazpacho poisoning that everybody's at but you. Why do I send out memos if nobody reads them?
Busy as ever, I see.
I'd have more work to do if you had more clients.
Ouch. Well, I gotta go hit the bricks.
Okay, you show those bricks a lesson.
The musical score, which was also re-recorded for the remaster, is also stunning and entirely appropriate, from amazingly large-scale orchestral pieces to 40s jazz that really add to the ambience. The game also contains a large number of pre-rendered cinematics that seamlessly transition from and to the main game, and surprisingly, still look good by today's standards, despite their somewhat low resolution.
I want something cheap where I can get some rest, and that's it.
Ay, ay, ay.
Another special mention goes to the game's user interface, or rather, the lack thereof. There's one single icon in the bottom right for opening your inventory, which is hidden unless you move the mouse, an interaction icon that only appears if you are carrying an item, and a cursor that changes depending on the context. And that's about it. It's really unobtrusive and self-explanatory, and allows you to gaze at the nice environments and take in the game's atmosphere unobstructed. Cycling through your inventory can be a bit of a nuisance at times, as Manny needs to take each individual thing out of his jacket and put it back one by one, but it's not a huge deal. The fact that the inventory doesn't open to the last item you had selected, and instead the next one in the queue, can get a bit annoying by the end of the game though. It might sound like I'm overly criticising the game in some respects, and I guess I am. I'm not going to lie, the game isn't perfect and has its fair share of problems, which are made all the more apparent 20 years later. But I want to make it clear that despite these criticisms, the game is still amazing. Back in 1998 when it first came out, it was mind-blowing, and after 20 years it's still great, just not quite as awesome, and the cracks in the paintwork are beginning to show. I still highly recommend you play the game, however. The story alone is enough to keep you driving forward, and when you do solve those at times frustrating puzzles, you feel like a genius. The game is critically acclaimed and held up as one of the best adventure games of all time for a reason. It really is up there with the best of the best. I played the game on PC, but the remastered edition is available on lots of other platforms too, so go ahead and pick your favourite one and give the game a crack. However, I'll add a yeah but in here. Make sure you like this type of thing. Adventure games like Grim Fandango are not for everyone, and this game will likely not convert you if you aren't already a fan of the genre. But if you are a fan, and for some reason have not tried it yet, you won't be disappointed. Is it still worth playing in 2018? I'd say yes, just be aware of what the game is and what you're getting into. Have you played Grim Fandango yourself? Do you agree with my assessments? I'd love to hear your opinions. Drop me some comments below and give me a thumbs up if you liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with my content. Thanks for watching.
Some seaweed? No! I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under some seaweed? No! I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Scare away sea monsters? Yeah! I'm gonna let it shine. Scare away sea monsters? Yeah! I'm gonna let it shine. Scare away sea monsters? Yeah! I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Let it shine, let it shine.
I'm not gonna let you touch it. No! I'm gonna let it shine. I'm not gonna let you touch it. No! I'm gonna let it shine. Not gonna let you touch it. No! I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.